Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Peace, everybody. This your brother, Mr. Holipsism. I'm here with
your brother Deontay Ford.
Yeah, I'm here with my brother from the BAIO, Deontay Ford. How you doing, bro?
What's up? Good. Doing good.
Yeah. What we're going to get into is something that me and you were talking about. And that's, there's only one path to reparations for ADOS and FBA. And actually, not just ADOS and FBA, but for black folks in general. It's only one path. You know, a lot of people is out here bull jiving you and thinking you think that, you know, just yelling, cut the check is going to get it done.
Right.
If you really, truly want to obtain reparations, there's only one path, and that's focusing on Liberia as your nation state. Period. Point blank. End of story.
Right.
I want to give Deontay a chance to spit his 16 bars on this before Jabari comes in.
Yeah.
So
and
what is your take, bro?
My take on this is, in order for anybody or any group of people to declare reparations of any kind, if memory serves me correctly, you would need to actually have a nation. Reparations means repairing a nation, not repairing a people. So, all this talk about cutting the check in random checks to random individuals, it's not going to get over anywhere. So for ADOS, they would need to embrace a nation. And given Liberia's unique history with the connection to African Americans, you would think that they would be about taking the next step and embracing Liberia. They're not really interested in doing that. So one has to really question. In fact, they're talking about they're trying to cut ties from Africa completely. So one has to So one has to question
the intelligence.
What exactly? Yeah, the intelligence of ADOS and what actually is their end game. So that's because if it's not nationhood, you're not going to get you're not going to get the United States to give you a reparation check. If it's not nationhood, then what exactly are you campaigning for? Because you're asking a country right now that is aiding another foreign hostile entity in committing an open genocide that built itself on slave labor and the genocide of the native peoples here to give you a reparations check. That's what you're doing. You have no leverage whatsoever to get them up otherwise, to force them to do that for you. So what exactly are you doing? What is your end game? So that's my whole stance on that.
The United States gave Israel $235 million to make their Iron Dome defense system.
Mm-hmm.
And they had nothing to do with the Holocaust.
Yeah, Israel is blackmailing American politicians.
And in addition to that 235 million, I think they give them 38 billion in military aid package and assistance. Once again, the United States had nothing to do with the Holocaust. So if you can give 38 billion to Israel and 235 million to help them set up a defense system to protect themselves, what do you owe Africans here in America who came as a result of chattel slavery and the transatlantic slave trade, and who you helped set up a nation in Liberia.
Sorry, you went out for a second. Can you repeat that?
Oh, what part?
Uh, yeah, you came back after the word Liberia.
All right, let me just paraphrase. Basically
Yeah.
what I'm saying, if you can give Israel 38 billion and 235 million and set up their defense system, what do you owe African Americans in Liberia?
Quite a bit more, I'd say, given what they've done. But we both know the chances of them getting that is very slim to none because there's no real power or organization behind it. We are
Well,
we are not we are not organized.
well, you definitely can't get it if you don't embrace your nation state.
Right.
And let me let Jabari in. Peace, Jabari. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
He's coming around.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, the question that I asked is if the United States can give Israel $38 billion in military assistance and 235 million to help them build their Iron Dome defense system, what do they owe Liberia?
Oh, they owe Liberia hundreds of billions, possibly into the trillions. But the reason why that hasn't come into fruition is because we don't think of an end game, and the end game is important for a multitude of reasons. The align when you don't have an end game, and I'm sorry, I just had to get something done, but let me put my camera on. But what makes it a problem is that when you don't have an alliance, not an alliance, when you don't have an end game, I don't know why my mind is burning out, but when you don't have a end game, it's hard to get on track or it's hard to make any progress. We feel that we're not getting anywhere because we don't have an end game. If the end game is reparations, the first thing you have to find is, okay, what is the body that's going to represent us when these reparations are handed out? Who is going to be the person that's going to be when the United States government signs this bill or Congress passes it in the future? Who's going to be the organization that's going to be responsible for helping to distribute this? Oh, that's number one. Number two is, what is the end result? What are we trying to achieve with this? And because of that, we're going to be stuck where we are. Whereas if you were to, let's say our end game is reparations in the form of self-determination, and our representative is going to be Liberia, right? We can then start making small but tangible goals going forward. We can say, hey, our first step is education or getting the public aware of this. Then the second step is then you can slowly start building things. But if that's not your end game, if you don't have an end game, it's going to be hard to make any progress on this.
Right. And again, you're asking a country that's committing an open genocide right now as we speak, or if they're not committing it, uh, they're they're
Orchestration.
complicit in it. They're orchestrating it to give you a reparations check. That's what you're doing. So, and this country, the United States, has the ability to turn off another country's economy anytime they see fit. They fund rebel groups. We just saw them take down Assad, who was just like Muammar Gaddafi. He had a standing military. And with the aid of sanctions, they basically took down his whole administration. He's on the run now. That's what they just did. As of the last, 48 hours. That's what they just did. You're telling the world's most hostile nation that's armed with nukes to give you a reparations check. That's what you're doing. You have no power behind it
With
whatsoever.
no strategy or end game is the
No
biggest.
strategy and no transparency, no organization. You're just online screaming, cut the check. That's what you're doing.
And cutting the check is the absolute worst thing that could happen.
No,
Right?
no doubt.
If they would have cut the check right now without black folks having any organization, not claiming any nation state or whatever, I think we all know how that would go.
Yep.
You don't have to
Yep.
be, a Swami to know exactly how that would go down. And then what would happen is, and even though this is not ever going to happen, I'm just, these are hypotheticals. Once you get your check as an individual, racism is over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you bring up racism and discrimination, they're going to go right to your check number.
Mm-hmm. And then if things don't go according to plan, they're going to go back to the original racist stereotypes that they have us before, which is, hey, black people don't know how to govern themselves. You see, we gave them reparations for slavery, and they still squandered it. It shows the reason why black people are in this situation is because of them. It's their fault. It's thinking checkers, not chess. It's thinking just in the short term, like having the memory of a fruit fly, instead of thinking piece by piece long term.
Yeah.
Thank you for that info, Carl. I don't know if you can speak or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what, honestly, and that's what makes the U.S. powerful, is that what people have to understand is that when you don't have that focus on the nation state aspect of it, right? Once you have the nation state, or once you have the end game, right? You can then start building, or you can start establishing relationships and building those supporters outside of the group. When you don't have that solidarity in that relationship, it's not possible, because, okay, we're pressuring them, but who else is pressuring them? Who else do we have that's supporting our cause that can give some leverage to us? What moves are we making internationally that can put us in a better position? You have our brothers and sisters opposing us going back to Africa. When going back to Africa would be the best solution for us, or not just in terms of us overall, but just our well-being in America, right? Because if the black folks say, listen, some of us say, listen, I want to stay here, or I feel comfortable where I'm at. If you have global support, it allows for those people who are in America to still push on. But when you cut yourself off from the rest of the world, when you're not trying to build those relationships outside, or try to have that support outside, it's not going to work inside. You can't just do it by yourself inside. You need support.
Yeah.
Jabari,
Yes.
why is it necessary to push for reparations as a nation as compared to a bunch of individuals?
The reason why it's important that you push for reparations as a nation instead of as individuals is because when you advocate for it as a nation, it allows for everybody to coalesce and consolidate. When you're doing it as individuals, everybody is scattered. There's no clear agenda. There's all these different roads to nowhere because there's no organized effort or consolidation. Once you have a nation state and you're arguing from the position of a nation state, you have one voice. You have a representative. You start functioning as an organized unit. It's now consolidated.
So strategically, it just makes more sense.
Correct.
If that's what your objectives are.
Yes. And it also gives you leverage in ways that if they don't want to give it to you, you can start making different moves accordingly. Such as, hey, okay, since you don't want to give us reparations, this is going to affect our relationship. We're going to have to rethink some things.
So Jabari, I have a different perspective on that.
Oh, interesting.
And while you're correct, right, two things can be true at the same time. There's a lot of precedent for individual action setting a tone for collective benefit in the U.S. legal system. So, for example, the Gideon Will that was issued in, I think, 1853, where he, in the will, said that his slaves were to be sent to Liberia upon his death. And there was the will said, my slaves are to be turned over to Liberia, to ACS and repatriated to Liberia, basically, my slaves. And the state of Georgia went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, well, the ACS doesn't deal with slaves. They deal with free Blacks repatriating. And Gideon didn't specifically liberate or emancipate his slaves. He just said they're taking his slaves back. Well, his slaves are not free. And his will doesn't say that he's liberating them. So they were never sent back to Liberia. Now, there was a lot of land that was also granted to them that they did not receive because they were not free. The descendants of those people can technically sue the state of Georgia for reparations, whatever the value of that land is, which is probably sitting somewhere under some buckhead or somewhere right now, who knows, some valuable real estate. The descendants of those people technically have grounds to sue for reparations, to sue the state for reparations. Because the other thing that Gideon Will did say, my slaves and their descendants, right? So if they were to win that case, or any other cases that have been, land grab cases and stuff like that, the reason you haven't seen a lot of those cases won in court is because they know the implications. If they rule in your favor in this kind of, case, then it sets a legal precedent for others to follow. So when you see individuals trying to get their just due on an individual basis, it's also because that would be a precedent for others to follow and benefit from. There's a lot of history of that happening in the United States with our people. So our struggle is always multifold. I don't have any issue with individuals taking their individual grievances to court. That is one way to try to knock out the elephant. And I do also completely agree with you that the collective action is more powerful, but it doesn't mean that individual action cannot also be effective. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's a multi-pronged approach.
Right. All I'm saying essentially is, while you're correct that collective action is stronger, we should not then say because collective action is stronger, individual action is ineffective, because that is not true. That's not always true. Something can be less likely to prevail and still prevail.
Correct.
I see what you say.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because you have the collective action, but the collective is also made of individuals. So individual action is important because the collective, I mean, is made of individuals. So
we definitely need a nation, and it is easier to sue for reparations when you're a nation. All of that is 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is also possible for an individual to win a reparations case. And when that happens, it sets a precedent for others to follow.
Yes.
If that happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason why they're trying so hard not to give them reparations to the Tulsa survivors.
Exactly. That's the perfect example. Yep. And it was a clear-cut case. There's no legal luminary or logical mind that would review that case and not say that those people deserve reparations, but they understood what would happen if they were granted reparations. It would open a floodgate. It would be a massive transfer of wealth. And it would set precedent for others to follow. So that Tulsa case, I was thinking, if they get this, if the Tulsa case prevails, America is gonna be crazy. The subsequent lawsuits. I mean, places here like Georgia. I mean, the community they buried under Lake Lanier. Everybody would have a field day. I mean, Liberia, South Carolina, is a prime example. Liberia, South Carolina, was settled by freed blacks and named after the republic. And what did they do? They went and burned their houses and bullied them off their lands. Liberia is still there, but none of the people who established it are their descendants are there.
Oh wow, I didn't even know nothing about that. That's new.
Mm-hmm. I mean, those kinds of things happened over. Those kinds of things happen repeatedly around the world. But what I was saying about the G7, we always talk about America because we live here. But the truth of the matter is it's the G7. And America's a leader of the G7. They're probably the most powerful individual nation in the G7, but this is not an American alone issue when it comes to overthrowing governments and manipulating the world. It is an alliance. Just like we're talking about reparations, strength in numbers, America has a very strong alliance with the other 6 nations. And they are, everything that they're doing, they're all in agreement with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not America, willy-nilly, Lone Ranger, Captain America running around. Captain America has helpers. It's a team. This is a team effort.
I've been telling people that for the longest. I say the reason why America is so powerful is not just because of its individuals. It's the fact itself as an individual country, but it's alliance system. When you got the G7, when you have the EU, when you have NATO, it multiplies your effect. That if you have an alliance system, a collective like us as well, and you have the support of your other African countries, your other Caribbean brothers, that factor gets multiplied. So it's a multiple affront, because if we do reparations for us, that can set the precedent and help for reparations for Haiti when they get from France, Namibia, Germany, Italy, Ethiopia, Italy. But you have to look at it from a collective global approach. It's not a one-off thing. And I think that's what a lot of people get stuck is when we hear, especially for some from the ADOS and FBA, they'll say, oh yeah, well, Haiti should focus on getting reparations from France. Well, the U.S. Virgin Islands should focus on getting reparations from Denmark. It's like, okay, cool. I agree. They should. But individually, that's not just going to work. Like, it's not going to work. It's not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again,
how many times has Haiti asked for reparations from France, and France just been like, we're going to topple your regime. We're going to cause chaos in your country. We're going to do all this. And it's not Haitians are not trying, but that when you don't have that global support, that collective, it allows Haiti to basically be strangled because it's on an island by itself. Like, nobody's coming. Well, a few African countries have, but very rarely have not come to the defense of Haiti. Same thing for us here in America.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. And again, without us really coming together and being organized as a collective, nothing is ever really going to get done. That's what ADOS and FBA and Hebrew Israelites, all these people, they don't really seem to get that. Like that is not, it's, you cannot do nothing with such an idiosyncratic mentality. It's just not going to happen.
I understand the point of everybody has an individual role to play, but it's not just your own role that's going to help. Like, we're not on an island. And I think a lot of us view history and global events as like we're an island. Like, okay, my goal is to only focus on America because, well, since I live in America, that's the only thing I should focus on. And then you're focusing and you're looking at things through the lens of an island. Like, okay, well, we only need to focus on reparations because once we get reparations, you know, like, not thinking that your struggle for reparations is tied to Haiti's struggle for reparations, which is tied to Liberia's tie to get reparations, which is tied to the Anglophone and Francophone countries getting their reparations.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's just really strange how there's all this divisiveness and these people are going around saying just cut the check. And then I've often asked these people, like, okay, what are you going to do if they say no? And they pretty much already have. So what's plan B? Like, what's the end game? So I'm still trying to figure that out because you're not organized, and most of your movement is online. And when you got your head founder coming out live on these social, especially on Twitter, on these social media platforms, basically openly admitting that your movement has yielded no results. Like, what is the end game? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, because I think the thing is that's most important in how I look at reparations and how I got to the reparations point from the standpoint of nationhood and Liberia is we have to think about, in a large part, of thinking of an alternative. Like, my goal is, my focus is, how do I get this from and form an alternative? Okay, well, the individuals has not been working. What's the alternative? What's an alternative path that we can go on that can yield the same result, or try to get us to that level? And somebody second week.
I don't know what you did, but we're getting an echo.
No, that's not on my side. Yeah, that's Deontay's.
Okay.
But I just look at it from the perspective of providing an alternative, and why I think with focusing on nationhood and doing that alternative that we can get this result. And I think that's not often being spouted. Yes, I understand that from an individual perspective, absolutely we are owed. From a morally, it's justified. I'm just thinking about, okay, what's an alternative path that I can offer people or attempt to offer that could be just as effective or can get us to where we are. I don't want us to just focus so much on the end of that when we keep getting denied, we get frustrated, or we just want to like tune out instead of hey, what's the alternative? And that's what got me onto this path, which is providing the Black American community or Black people in general just an alternative. And to me, that alternative is the nationhood aspect, is representing us as a nation and working with our fellow brothers and sisters internationally along with that nation state to make it happen. It's not going to be easy. It's a long watch, but you know what? It starts somewhere. And when you start educating people about nationhood, when you start educating people and you start doing things little by little, you build that movement, you build that popular support that now we can go and make things happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So do I.
And Still Learning says, imagine if the G182, 195, 7 was to form a pan-global coalition to counterbalance the G7. I've always stated that, in my personal, is that when we are divided, it basically allows for those who are against us to just pluck us off one by one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can apply this to the reparations when it comes to referring to the G7, to EU and NATO. If the United States says no to reparations, then Denmark will say, then they can go say, okay, Haiti, you don't deserve reparations, because the United States says they don't deserve reparations. So why should we give you reparations? The Netherlands tells the Saint Martin and its former colonies, hey, we don't need to give you reparations because that's a long time ago, and these other countries ain't giving it. I mean, we've seen that over and over again when we try to do things individually, how it can stall, how it can, be sabotaged. But when you have a global collective and people in the global south and Africa and the Caribbean were to unite with one voice, it brings it so those G7 nations can't ignore us now. And they can't deny that this isn't a problem. And they have to do something.
Yeah.
How many grains of sand does it take to come together before they form a beach?
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah, I get that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It takes a lot. Trillions, but that unified force.
I agree.
She says, is BIO building with Dr. Eddie Kana? She's very close to the leadership in the Sahel. The Sahel Alliance is perhaps the best option at this time.
The who?
The Sahel Alliance, the AES.
Oh, this is my first time hearing about them.
That's Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's what they're calling it. Oh, yeah, he's right.
That's
I
what the
wish
Sahel Alliance. That's
yeah.
the AES.
Yeah, and I wish we were. I would like to. We would like to.
Yeah, I'm about to say we would like to, but we got to get, first things first, we got to get our house in order.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We gotta get our house in order first. Once we get the we part first, like how I said, once we get unified and there's the we part and we get our house in order, then we can talk about working with the AES and expanding. But if we ain't collectively building ourselves first, man, that's gonna crumble and be chaotic like no other. One of the things that I made this statement, which is that in order for an alliance to work, everybody has to do their part. Everybody has to get their house in order first. An alliance is not somebody else comes and bails you out because you didn't build and do what you're supposed to do. An alliance is we have the same objectives or similar objectives, similar goals, and we are all working together with our individual collective strengths to reach a common goal as a force. It's not, hey, let me bail you out. And so in order for us to have that alliance with the AES, we got to get our house in check first. I mean, we got to get our country in check. We got to get our Liberia fixed first. Once we get Liberia fixed and we get our house in order, then maybe we can go AES. But right now, that's overstretching a bit.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, again, the opportunity, would be tremendous for both sides. But yeah, we can't do nothing until we get our ducks in a row.
Hmm. That's all. Like we have the Pan African spirit, we have the collective spirit, but we got to do our part first. We got to do our part first.
Yeah.
We're part of the collective, but we got to do our part first. Once the fruit have born in Liberia, then we can, hey, all hands on board.
Yeah. I agree.
Is the UN considered to be the authority where national grievances are to be adjudicated? In other words, who investigates anti-humanity claims against the
That would
U.S.?
Nobody, because the
No.
U.S. was George Bush already made it abundantly clear that if anybody tries, he's going to invade their country.
My thing is that, and this is the one thing that we have to think about. A legal system is only powerful as if it's able to be enforced. If you cannot
Right.
enforce it, what good is it? That's not to say the UN is not valuable, not to say the UN is not important, but the UN had, look at the case of Nicaragua. The UN ruled that the United States owes Nicaragua reparations. Not only did the United States not give Nicaragua reparations, they sanctioned them.
Yep.
So it's going to be the people and the collective that's going to make it happen. The UN maybe can be a
Yeah.
vehicle potentially, but it's going to have to come from the collective in the countries to make that happen.
Right. You're right about that. But honestly, I think a lot of these a lot of these people who go into these conversations already know. Oh wait, there's a question
There are
to the
admins.
panel. Go ahead.
There are those who believe Trump's administration's Euro-nationalist tilt may force ADOS and AAs in general to embrace national. Do you agree, or is this integration plus Rev's idea too strong? What do y'all
Okay, so I disagree, and the reason being is because Trump was already president a couple of years ago, and ADOS and FBA are still didn't embrace nationhood then. They don't embrace it now. He's about to be in the White House in less than a month, in about a month or two, and they're still not even near there. So I disagree. It seems like their whole thing for existing seems to be just have online spats with people and invade Pan African spaces and just cause mischief and chaos. If they're not working for the feds directly, they're doing it indirectly, and they're still doing the devil's work. So you know what? No, I don't agree with that.
I want to get into the advantages of approaching it from a nationhood perspective compared to how ADOS are doing it now. Because I don't think ADOS just concentrating on Tulsa.
They're
No.
not concentrating on anything. They're just concentrating on existing
So
online and attacking Pan Africanists. That's all they're
so
doing.
um let me pull up their website just so people know what they actually are.
They have a
Um
website.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's called the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. And if you want to look at their website, they have it. So if you can pull it up, we can go over it, and then we can sort of,
Can you
you
put the
know,
link in the chat?
yeah, I can put the link into the chat. So okay, so I'm gonna put it both the private and the well, not thing, but I send a message directly to y'all. and then I'll put it in the thing. Give me 1 second. So that's the page for the ADOS Advocacy Foundation's website, and it talks about reparations. For those of you who are watching, here is the link to the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. That's the website that they have, and you can pull it up. I specifically got the reparations page. Here are some of the things that they have. They also have a FAQ if you want to see that. So, I mean, we can go over that. And
oh, this is interesting. Hold on a second.
yeah, and if you go to their FAQ, that tells you everything what they like, what they're about. And we can go forward and focus on the two things that I would say we focus on is what are lineage-based reparations and why do they matter, and who qualifies as reparations. I think those are the 2 points. So if you go to the FAQ, they have 2 points. And if you go to the FAQ, they'll say, what are lineage-based reparations and why do they matter? And then who qualifies for ADOS reparations and what will ADOS reparations include? They're back to back to back. So you got to go to the reparations page.
I was just looking at what is the Black agenda.
We can go on that
Can
afterwards.
you see that?
Yeah. Go to the reparations page and then go to the FAQ, because I think people need to see that first. And then reparations, go down, FAQ, and then it says who qualifies for reparations. Right there, it says who qualifies for reparations, and it says who qualifies for reparations. A person must, number one, be a citizen of the United States and have identified as Negro, colored, Black, or African American throughout their life on government documentation. Present a government ID issued birth certificate or census recorder identifying a direct answer as Negro, colored, Black, or African American before 1965. 3, trace their ancestors to at least one person that identified as Negro, colored, Black, or what an enslaved person in the United States between 1776 and 1865. And then they said, what will ADOS reparations include? Remedies must encompass comprehensive financial, land, education, mental health services, and reparation protection programs. In addition, a new federal agency must be created to administer and oversee the programming, including assisting participants with verifying their eligibility. So that's what
I'm getting an aneurysm as I look at this.
Yeah, I don't. It's like, okay, this whole thing with their lineage makes less sense now than what I previously thought. Because they're saying something totally different online, so I can't keep up with this.
Remedies
At
must
one point-
encompass comprehensive financial, land, education, mental health services, and reparations protection programs. In addition, a new federal agency must be created to administer and oversee the program, including assisting participants with verifying their eligibility. You guys know me pretty well.
Yeah.
What's going through my mind right now?
First of all, number one, there's no we. And number two, how exactly are they going to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that's going through my mind is, aren't you describing your own government? Wouldn't this be the thing that your own government does?
Yeah.
We're going to create a new federal agency. What the hell is wrong with us, man? What is wrong with us?
I don't know.
God damn, man.
And this is why to those who are listening, this is why we say advocate for a nationhood approach to reparations instead of in comparison to what ADOS is saying. Number one, the major reason why is that it simplifies, it makes our goal much more achievable, it makes it much more practical, and it limits the bureaucracy that would come with this. So number one is, you said they have to identify as Black, as Negro, Black, colored, African American their entire life. Okay. Then you said they must have
Huh? What did you say?
Then it says they must be able to trace their ancestry to at least one person who identified as Black, colored, African American in the United States between 1776 and 1865. Do they understand what slavery
That's
was?
everybody.
Like,
That's everybody.
do these people not understand what slavery was? A lot of our people don't know 1776 to 1865 because, newsflash, they didn't have written records, or they didn't write their names down, or their birth certificates. Remember, we were enslaved people. Hardly any of that was written. So how exactly are you going to trace this to people between 1776 and 1865 unless one of your ancestors was emancipated or has a purchase of sale? And even then, it would be difficult because you got to be able to follow it into the present day, which can be difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible, but that's out of reach for most African Americans. You take a DNA test, most African Americans cannot trace their ancestry past 1865.
Yeah. There's
Unless
a
there's
loopholes.
a birth index that shows right before emancipation that they were born into slavery. Otherwise, it is hard.
I'm getting an aneurysm.
Federal agency to determine who is who. The same people who created the barriers will now be in position to remove the barriers. How has that worked so far? It never works. And then
how are they creating? How are they creating their own federal agency with no government, no land, no money?
Because you think Donald Trump said on live TV that he's going to give reparations to white people.
Yeah, and that's what he said.
He said that he's going to give reparations to white people to create a federal agency
to help Negroes
for you. When, mind you, this man said he's going to gut the administrative state. It literally doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
this is why we advocate for a nationhood approach to reparations, because it simplifies it. It removes the bureaucracy. And number two, it gives us autonomy and control over how we move about. When you don't have a nationhood approach, you're at the mercy of people. You're at the mercy of the U.S. government and U.S. society.
Jabari, can you hear me?
Yes.
What is the Black agenda? This is the first sentence in What is the Black agenda?
Oh, brother, let me see.
The American Descendants of Slavery, ADOS Advocacy Foundation, believes in building a fairer and more equitable America.
Okay, so you
want me to read that again?
Yeah, because
The American Descendants of Slavery, ADOS Advocacy Foundation, believes in building a fairer and more equitable America. How many people is in the chat?
Let me check.
Can you guys let me know if building a fairer and equitable America is your Black agenda?
20. We got 20 people in the chat.
Is that your Black agenda? Let me know in the chat room if that's what your Black agenda is. Building a fairer and equitable America. Are we still on that?
Nope.
Who's worried about trying to play fair with the devil? We trying to get away from him. What the fuck?
And then he says right here, it says right here, right? It says, our efforts reflect a concern for and a commitment to advocating for policies that will eliminate the divides faced by all Black Americans. For ADOS, the specific call is for a national program for slavery reparations as discussed here. For all Black Americans, one would look to our robust Black agenda. The agenda is data-driven and reflects opportunities to improve the long-standing dismal outcomes most notably manifested in lineage-based racial wealth gap. We call on the Trump administration specifically and all elected officials in general to review our agenda and work with the ADOS Advocacy Foundation to secure the promise of America for all her citizens.
That sounds like some We Are the World shit.
Deontay,
Yeah.
what's the Black agenda for the BAIO?
Land, infrastructure, nationhood.
Wow. Interesting.
Throw in the fact that Africans were shipped to the U.S. from the islands during the 1700s, 1800s. It makes no sense. And the John Commander, that is absolutely correct.
Peace, the
I
Medjay
don't.
Commander, too. Good seeing you.
Yeah, peace.
I mean, it's the
But
truth.
it's
Like,
just
they treat slavery like Black folks were just shifted to America and we just stay there. Not, you have Black people who were brought to the Americas from Barbados, then were shipped to the Barbados. You have Black people who were in Cuba, then shipped to America. Like, they're viewing slavery as static, and that is a problem.
there were Black
We
people
got-
shipped to and from Haiti.
We got 8 minutes, just letting y'all know.
Oh. Like I don't really understand what exactly they're trying to claim. And it might be because I'm that fucking smart and I just don't know it. But this whole thing just means the word scam.
For all Black Americans, one would look upon our robust Black agenda. We call on the Trump administration specifically and all elected officials in general to review our agenda and work with the ADOS Advocacy Foundation to secure the promise of America for all her citizens.
Who is writing these things? Who is leading this? Who is sponsoring these people?
Well, let's see.
If you want to know, just go to their About Us page, and then it says just go to their About Us page.
Because if they so about it, how can we address them and say, hey guys, we believe what you believe too. We just want to do it this way. Something, because you're sitting talking and going in circles and talking about how stupid they are. It's not getting anything done. Eventually, we all need to be doing. Those of us who believe in something needs to be doing something, right? And it's guaranteed there's people who are listening to ADOS because they don't hear this, because the algorithm in it isn't sending them nationhood outside of America. Their algorithm is stopping at ADOS and FBA, and they like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm American. Hell yeah, I'm a descendant of slavery, and this is all they have. So if we if they don't hear us, and I don't have the answer, y'all. I'm just saying I know that there has to be some kind of handout. And y'all know me, I ain't the one to do it because I'll just cuss them out. But like logically, there has to be logically though, there has to be some kind of bridge, y'all. There has to be, or else we just gonna be doing this forever. Like we doing. You know what I mean? Like something has to get done, and things can get done a lot faster if more people was on board. Like this is the retardation that kills me. The fact that we watch everybody work together. We watch Apple copy Google, Google copy Apple. We watch Walmart and Kroger and everybody work together. And then when it comes time for our turn, when it's open season for us to work together, we start acting like clowns and start talking about how we're different. And then talk about how we're not a monolith and just stupid stuff, man. While getting our heads beat in though. I don't understand it. I don't understand how we so comfortable in being so disorganized and disjointed. I don't get that part.
I think the first sentence of what is the Black agenda answers that question.
Right. To be close to Whitey, just to be, what do you call it? I like to use the word just to be acknowledged. Remember the
Yeah.
shows? Holla, acknowledge me, and I'm good.
Roman Reigns.
Real talk. It was the one show. It was like a vampire show. Did you ever watch that one show? It had the one dude from True Blood in it, and he was like a demigod. He was like a devil or something, reincarnated on Earth, and he would come and he would get his power. He would get his power by people loving him and like worshiping him. That's where he got his power from. And he would literally walk into the room and he'll float and he'll be like, worship. What would he say? Acknowledge me or something like that. But people will start praising him and he'll start flying and stuff and getting his power. And that's basically us. We just want to be glorified in word, not in deed, in word, in speech. That's it, in media. And we good. That makes us feel great. We're close to the power. We're good. We don't need it ourselves, as long as I'm close to it.
Well, the good thing I think for us on our end is at least we're talking about it. Like this live stream that we're doing today can be shared. You know what I'm saying? We're at least having the conversation. These people are not like you. I was telling Deontay this. ADOS and FBA, you're not really going to hear about them until the next election cycle because that's how they move. That's how they operate. They think that they're going to ride the wave of American politics. How do you work with this? The American Descendants of Slavery ADOS Advocacy Foundation believes in building a fairer and more equitable America. It's like you mixing us with them is like mixing oil and water.
These are facts, brother. Real talk. Every time you reread it, you should see my face when you start reading. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand how this could be your front end. How you can sit down and be talking and be like, all right, what is going to be our mission statement? And that's what you come up with. That don't make any sense.
And my thing is this, from a reparations perspective, this is always the way that I see it, is I would much rather have, if the United States is going to allocate foreign aid to our nation, I would want that foreign aid to go to all the four pillars or the pillars of nationhood, which is economic, defense, military, political, you know what I'm saying? And all of the major pillars and infrastructure. Like imagine instead of you trying to get a check cut to you, your nation had enough money to actually build a roads and highway system.
And ports.
Which would you take? I'm taking the roads and highway system because unlike the rest of these fools, I don't need nobody giving me nothing. I can do it myself.
I think it's more, for me, the reason why nationhood works better than an individual reparation or even just trying to get a fair agenda is that at the end of the day, when we build up our nation, we have control over it. It's our nation. We're in the driver's seat on how we interact. When you are trying to do it in America, we don't know how that's going to turn out. Well, we actually do have
precedent. We do know how it's going to turn out. It's not going to turn out, and it's not going to happen.
But forget about. Here's the thing that people forget about. Forget about the fact that, well, the United States has not given us reparations. Well, they have given us reparations. Remember, what was 40 acres and a mule? People say, 40 acres and a mule was, promised each Black American. No, that's not true. That happened primarily around the low country of South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, basically like the Gullah Geechee territory. And basically what happened is Sherman said, okay, listen, we're going to allot these acres of land to these former enslaved people to allow them to get their lives up and running because they didn't have control over the means of production. They didn't have control over land, labor, capital, what we consider the means of production. And so guess what happened? When Lincoln was assassinated in April 14th, 1865, he dies in April 15th, 1865. President Johnson, who was a Southern Democrat, because remember, what we keep forgetting is Lincoln was a Republican, Andrew Johnson was a Southern Democrat because they wanted to kind of keep the Union together. So Andrew Johnson was much more sympathetic to the South. So what happens when Lincoln dies and Johnson is put into office? Johnson then goes and reverses what Sherman does All that land is given back to the plantation owners. So that's another reason why it's a concern. They could give us reparations and then give it right back. In the same way, if we were to look in the modern world, in your everyday life, health insurance companies can tell a pharmacy, an individual pharmacy, hey, we're going to reimburse you. And then months later, charge that pharmacy and tell that pharmacy, you got to give us that money back. So when you don't control, they can give us reparations and then take it right back if they wanted to.
What I hear you saying, Jabari, is as long as we aren't creating the rules, we'll never win playing their games.
Yep.
Because what I realize from my little time here on Earth, I've witnessed the federal government, the United States government, whenever somebody gets a little smarter than them, they'll literally create a whole new law just so they can get you, i.e. RICO laws. Hello, those laws were made up. They just made that up just so they could take down criminal enterprises that was doing slimy businesses. And it gets even better when you catch them up with bribery cases, they could just seal their records. Oh, we're going to seal our records. Oh, we're going to block you from opening up our records. We don't want you to see our misconduct. But let me go to Walmart to try to get a job. They'll want to know what I did when I was 12. This is the system that we're working with, y'all. When the president of the United States could be a felon, all these criminals, but my little black self could go to a McDonald's right now and they'll want to know my criminal history. But we want to say we want to be involved in this system and this system is going to work for us. Sorry, guys.
When does it ever work for us?
I don't know if that we're scared. I don't think we're scared of having control. I know in my soul that we don't believe in ourselves. I don't think that we believe that we can govern ourselves. I don't even think that we look at African nations who are governing themselves and look at it positively. As Black Americans, we don't see ourselves as leaders of government, presidents, secretaries of state, colonels in the military. We just don't. We look at ourselves and we see baggy pants, big ass shirts, and microphones and basketballs, y'all. This is the truth.
I feel the need to play something after hearing that Black Agenda. Could y'all indulge me?
Go ahead. Sure.
Or so-called Negro, African Americans, or so-called Negro. One of the reasons that it is bad for us to continue to just refer to ourselves as so-called Negro, that's negative. When we say so-called Negro, that's pointing out what we aren't, but it isn't telling us what we are. We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. And because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. So our unwanted presence, the fact that we are unwanted, is becoming magnified in all of America's preachments today.
It's amazing to me how this was the message in the 60s, and we're still having this debate in 2024, going on to 2025, and we're still talking about this. And then when I see a Black agenda that says building a fairer and more equitable America.
Let me let me
What the fuck, man?
let me speak to that when you finish, big bro.
I'm
Because
finished.
you reminded me of something. I was explaining this to my lady because we was talking about something, and I tried to break it down to the simplest terms, and I was like, baby, look, chattel slavery was basically we were being bred like animals. Let's just say dogs. Let's just say dogs, right? Now, imagine if you're a pet owner, you have a dog or a cat, right? You've been doing whatever you want with this dog, even if you're not an abusive dog or cat owner, right? You feed them and everything else, but they're still an effing dog and they're an effing cat, right? Now, one day, this damn cat decides that it's intelligent. One day, you come into the house and the cat is sitting on the damn couch saying, when are you going to start making dinner? One day, you come in and the dog is looking at you like, nigga, take that trash out. The trash is overflowing. You going to look at that dog and say, motherfucker, you're a dog. You're my dog. Shut the fuck up. Guys, I hate to put it to y'all. We are dogs to them. We are pets to them, y'all. Malcolm just said it. Not much of that has changed. If y'all are understanding the idea of post-traumatic slave syndrome, this is what people don't ever talk about. We need a little lesson in psychology. If I'm your abuser for hundreds of years, while you're being dominated and while your mind is being socialized and generalized into domination, what's going on in my white mind is I'm better than you. What's going on in my white mind, what's going on in my white spirit, my DNA is being transformed as well into thinking I'm better than you forever. That's what these white folks is running with, y'all. That's why even the quote unquote good ones, they're not going to bat for you because in their spirit, they have the spirit of domination. And that is not going to change with us still sitting up here trying to be up under them, loving them, hugging them, fucking them, having babies with them, etc. I'm sorry. We are gonna forever be their pets until we stand the fuck up and say we don't need y'all around us. Hello.
In the immortal words of Chuck Norris, if I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you.
Damn it. And that's exactly how they treat us. When it comes down to it, they treat us exactly like that. What? You little black bitch, I'll shoot you in the face. Hello. Hello. Am I there?
Yep. Loud and clear.
We don't want to deal with that though. We want to stay in the area of prayers and meditation. Once it comes down to balling your fist, we're gone. We're gone, y'all.
Don't forget this, Yamoja. Being Americans.
That's it. Mind you, one of the essence of America is violence. Unless you black against other people, man. We got to get strong, y'all. Straight up. Strength is needed.
And somehow ADOS and FBA think that it's a brilliant strategy to divorce yourself and cut yourself from Africa and yet ask for reparations. Brilliant strategy, guys. Anyway, 108.
I wonder, how can we get, before you end, big bro, if anybody got any knowledge on how can we get a big platform to do a real good debate? Because why don't know ADOS people ever come and speak up for themselves? It'd be nice. I remember a couple years ago we talked about this.
I can find something to bring you.
No, seriously. Listen, man. Listen, no. A couple years ago when it was really loud, we was like at it, like when they gonna come? When they gonna come? And they would never show up. And like, why they still not showing up? It seemed like they're real popular. Why aren't they defending their asinine stance?
And the crazy thing about it is, I'm not against them. Like, these are our people at the end of the day. I'm not against them. But they need to be smarter. They need to think more strategically. You know what I'm saying? If they're serious. Because that's under debate, you know, with me. Is this really a serious movement? Because I don't know how you can be serious and think that you're going to get fair and equity in America. I don't get it. Like right now, politically in America, all bets are off. That's why when I'm hearing these, I don't want to get too far sidetracked, but I'll just put this out there. Everybody's losing their mind and grabbing their, clutching their pearls because Joe Biden pardoned his son.
Like he wasn't going to do that.
Like, who gives a shit? Oh, you lost the moral. There is no moral ground in America. What moral ground are you talking about? Everybody else is playing by one set of rules and we playing by another. I'm just waiting for when the fuck are we gonna grow the fuck up? I'm sorry. That clip was from the 60s.
That's it. You just said the most important one though. I think a big part when you say grow up, I think a more direct way to put it is when are we gonna live in reality? Because we'll say stuff like, we'll talk about y'all. We need to be like creating our own space, leaving America or conglomerating in America. Black folks would be like, man, it's our country. We built it. Right. And really mean it. It's like, bruh, how many times does it have to be explained to you that you were slaves? You was not traveling. You was not navigating the waters and found America and said, we're going to build this place, sir, ma'am. You were slaves. You were only 12, 14% of the population now. How are you claiming ownership over anything when you don't control nothing? This is the part about being an adult and looking at reality. But that reality makes you look. Go ahead, sir, please.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me, you know, like when you get these black celebrities like Oprah and like these artists and they go overseas, like let's say to France, right?
Yeah.
And they try to go to a clothing store or something to get some, you know, some merchandise. And the French people is looking at them like, what are you doing here? And we don't want you here. And then what do they do as a counter? They buy out the store. Oh, I belong here. Watch, I'm going to buy everything in this store. Wow, that really hurts them, right? You really showed them. That's what it feels like. It's like we're such babies in the way that we deal with reality. We don't want our own store. We don't want to just get the hell out of their store and not give them a dime. That doesn't come into your mind. What comes into your mind is, I'm going to show them that I belong here just like everybody else. So I'm going to buy the whole store.
I just want to say this.
God damn, man.
I just want to say this to wrap it all up is that the reason why that's going to fail and why we advocate for the reparations from nationhood is that it's the same reason why a lot of Black people give up on the conscious community, the pro-Black community. You're providing no alternative. What the ADOS Advocacy Foundation is advocating for is what Black people in previous generation integrationists have advocated the same for generations. Hey, it's no different than what the Democrats were advocating in the 70s and in the 80s, or even with the Kerners report under Lyndon B. Johnson. This stuff is not new, but you're not providing an alternative that inspires Black people, are going to make Black people feel like they are part of something that they control, that's bigger than themselves, that they feel like is going to leave a legacy behind. And that's why a lot of people are that's why a lot of the energy has sort of stamped down, because you're not providing people that alternative. And that's what we are doing when we advocate for reparations by nationhood. We're giving the Black people in America and around the world another alternative. Hey, you don't feel like this way is working? Don't worry. We got another way for you. Take this path, and this is what we're going to do for you. And ultimately, that's what's going to make the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll leave on that note. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep.
I will see y'all in the lounge if you're there.
You will see us all, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Peace.
Peace out, y'all.